All right. So today we're going to talk a little about Chapter 6, Thinking, Memory, and Cognition. Again, this is a pretty long chapter, so I'll probably have to go through 2 videos. All right. So here we go. Today we are going to learn how to identify sensory memory, define short-term memory, and define long-term memory. Very exciting. All right. So we know what memory is, but memory is one of those things that is tricky for human beings. We like to think we have good memories, that it's like pulling up a photo album and looking back in time. Memory does not work like that. Memory is very fallible. Human memory sucks. It's not very good, and it's the least reliable in crime scene investigations. Human memory is the least eyewitness testimony is the least reliable evidence there is. Yes, 2 different people what they saw, and they'll tell you 2 different things. Okay, so it's not like pulling up photography and seeing the past. In fact, we all probably have made up memories that didn't really happen. And you can implant memories and all those other things. So memory for humans, they like to think it's good, but it's not. So for us to have memory, we have to encode, store, and be able to retrieve information. So right here we got sensory information. This is things that trigger your senses, like sight. When you see your mom, right? You know it's your mom within a split second. When you hear your mom, on the phone, it's your mom right off the bat. Okay. Then we go to short-term memory, which we store about 7 bits of information plus or minus 2, or chunks of information, like remembering a phone number long enough to be able to put it in your phone. Oh, my phone light just went off. Okay. And then long-term memory is things that you store long-term and are there probably for the rest of your life. But again, it becomes more wrong over time, actually. All right. So here we go. Again, it's that initial momentary storage. Okay. And what it does is it allows you to recognize what you're seeing, or if you're meeting somebody for the first time, you encode it without even giving it a second thought. Basically, it allows you to make sense of the world, where you use your memory to understand that yes, that's the voice, hearing language, or yes, that is a person I know, and you do that instantly. All right. Next. Why is this not working? Oh, wait a second. Okay, here we go. Alright, short-term memory, again, is 7 bits or chunks of information plus or minus 2. Again, this is just to be able to remember where to put your keys when you walk in the door. To be able to store working memory, do a math problem, and we use this all the time. And basically what happens here is the hippocampus decides what's important to remember and for how long. And for memory, for short-term memory, that's 7 bits or chunks of information plus or minus 2, and it's there just temporarily. You don't store it in the long term unless you so choose it to. Okay. Now, if you can use rehearsal if you want to store that short-term memory into long-term memory. Rehearsal works, but what normally works the best are mnemonic devices and stuff like that. Alright, what's next? Long-term memory is, like I was saying earlier, it's events that stick with you for your whole life. Your 8th grade birthday party. okay, or if there's a national event, you know, like for me, you know, when I was in 7th grade, the Challenger blew up. I remember that. I remember a kiddo coming into our classroom and telling us that the Challenger blew up, and we didn't believe him. So then we went to the other room. You know, those are things that stick with you. Now, over time, I may have added things to the scenario and not even realize it. So I highly doubt the way that I remember it is exactly how it went. That's how fallible memory is. It's not something that you can trust 100% ever. And so we have to be aware of that when we ask for reliable information from people using their memory, because you know they're not. Most of the time they're not lying. They just misremember it. Let me move down here. Alright, oh, here we go. Okay, learning, recall, and forgetting. Again, so explain retrieval cues, discuss levels of processing, implicit and explicit memory, and flashball memory. Okay. Let me move down here. Okay, retrieval cues. These are things that can help you bring out memories. You know, you may have the information in there. A lot of us suffer from test anxiety, in which we don't do very well when we take a test, but the information is in there. And so we have to be able to get in there and retrieve it. And so we can have retrieval cues that allow us to more easily recall it. You know, mnemonic devices, by making the information more relatable, to be able to make it meaningful to you in a way that's special to you. Recall is the ability to to remember, and recognition is it's like a multiple choice test. You have 4 different answers and you pick the right one. You recognize the right answer. Okay, so that's what recognition. Recall is kind of like a fill in the blank essay kind of stuff. Well, recognition is more of a multiple choice kind of idea, where you recognize that you've seen this before, you've been exposed to it before, and you recognize it. Alright. Levels of processing. The idea here is that, you know, again, if you are able to make the information meaningful, alright, if you're able to go above the initial processing of just recognizing, and be able to raise it up to more of a understanding of what everything is, you are more likely to be able to remember the information. Okay, so you've got to make it, you know, meaningful to you. You know, mnemonic devices. You know, being able to, you know, Roy G. Biv. You know, those are helps you remember the colors of the rainbow. You know, how do you remember your planets? And you know, my very educated mother just served us 9 pizza pies. Sorry, I don't know how to stop that. All right. Alright. Okay, explicit memory. These are things that you know, and you can say that you know it. Okay, it's recollection, recalling information. Like, I remember when. Anytime you say I remember when, that's explicit. Alright. Implicit is more of a muscle memory kind of thing. Okay, so remember, if you read your brain parts, the hippocampus is for storing or beginning the process of storing explicit memory. Okay, implicit memory is more of a cerebellum thing. The cerebellum is that little brain underneath the back of your occipital lobe. That is for implicit memory, like muscle memory. To be able to get on the bike and go without giving it a second thought, to to be able to pick up a pen or a pencil and draw or color or write without having to figure out how to do it every single time. It just happens. Okay. Explicit is facts, figures, I know how, all those other things that you say, I remember when, this is how, all those other things. Facts. Implicit is more ingrained into you because you've done it so many times. Okay, flashball memory, I was talking about that earlier. When an event that causes an emotional reaction, you are more likely to remember that better than anything else. It could be when you're surprised birthday party and you remember what it was like to be surprised. Or it could be a traumatic event, something happened to you when you were a kid and it's kind of, you remember it like it just happened yesterday. It could be a national event like 9/11, Challenger exploding, and all those things that cause an emotional connection. Your hormones and stuff help build that connection and solidify the connections, the neural connections in your brain, and make those permanent. And those types of memories are least likely to be able to change over time. You hope, not necessarily. Again, eyewitness testimony can change over time because more information gets in there and clouds everything up. Constructive memory processes, I was talking about this earlier. It's about we give meaning to events, alright? And whenever we give meaning to anything, it helps us remember it better. Schemas are how we organize things, how we process. What is, when you think of of a cat, there's different types of cats. Why does this keep coming up? Alright, sorry. And autobiographical memories is recollection of episodes in our lives. When you were in 5th grade, this happened. Okay, forgetting. We all forget. Although there are some people who are alive who remember every single moment of their life since age 11. They don't ever forget, ever. And they can literally time travel to the past and relive it and close their eyes and relive an entire day. Well, to my knowledge, there's 6 people in the United States with this ability. It's not very common, but what would life be like if you never forgot anything? You wouldn't have to study, but you'd be hard to forgive other people when they make you mad. Why we forget? Well, maybe we didn't encode it correctly and got in there in the first place wrong. We don't use the memory very often, and so the neural connections actually disconnect from one another. Okay, saying those neural connections are gone. Sometimes things can get in there to cloud the memory. You start putting events in that didn't really happen, and you don't have the right kind of cues around to help you remember something. Like I said, human memory is fallible. It's not meant to be perfect. Sometimes it's meant to protect our egos, and it's a defense mechanism to help protect our psyche. Memory is just one of those things that are just really kind of tricky. We believe in it, but we really shouldn't believe in it all that much. And there's proactive and retroactive interference. What happens, well, for example, it's 2019 now. Probably many of you have wrote 2018 after you've already written after you already turned 2019. So what's happened there is past interference is interfering with what's going on now, and then retroactive interference is the other way around. Okay. You can't remember your old address because you're living somewhere else. Only got a few seconds left before this shuts off, so let me see if we get to there. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video here. I got about 15 seconds left, and then I'll restart the video to talk about thinking, reasoning, and problem solving.